Hi everyone, in this video I'll walk you through the process of integrating Firestore into an Express.js application. Firestore is a core service within Google's Firebase platform. So if we check out the Firebase website and we go to build, you would see Firestore is there. Now the question arises, why would one want to use Firestore? Well, we would want to use Firestore because first, it's easy to set up. It keeps your data in sync in real time, and you don't have to worry about managing servers. If you want to quickly build and test a data storage flow, Firestore is a simple and convenient choice. For this demo, we will use a simple data flow with just 3 entities. The client, which can be browser or Postman, the Express application, and the third, Firestore database. Client will generate an HTTP post request to the Express application. Along with it, it will send a payload, and the responsibility of this Express application is to push the data which it has received from client to the Firestore DB. So this Express application is acting as a proxy server. In order to accomplish the objective of this video, I have broken it down into 5 steps. First, we will create an Express.js application locally, and we will test out the post method endpoint using Postman application, and will print the payload in the console. For the second step, we will create a project on Firebase, and then we will create a default database on Firestore. Now fourth is a crucial step. We need to get the credentials of the service account. Service account credential is used to authenticate the Express.js application at the Firestore side. So before the communication between Express.js and Firestore establishes, it needs some form of authentication. It needs to get authenticated itself. That's where we need the credentials of the service account to be accessible by our Express.js application. And once that connection is authenticated, we are ready to push the data to Firestore DB. So let's directly dive into it. For the step one, what I have done so far is I have created a folder in one of the location in my files explorer, and I named it as Firestore Express, and opened that folder in Visual Studio Code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in the Express.js's boilerplate code. So I'll type in npx express generator. So as you can see, the command has pulled in few folders and files of the boilerplate code, and those files have a package.json. It has few dependencies, app.js, which has our server logic, and couple of other folders. You must have noticed that it doesn't have node modules yet. I mean, the dependencies, the packages that are declared in package.json are not yet there in our project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do npm install. It has downloaded the dependencies, and node modules folder and package.json file is created. Now we will run our server and check in our browser whether this server is accepting the request and responding to that or not. So let's clear the terminal, and I'm going to use this command. Okay, This command says that the server has started and it's listening on port number 3000. So let's go to our browser. Okay, now we are in our browser. Let's check out whether the server is responding to the default get request or not. So we'll go localhost 3000 and yes, it's responding. Now let's go back to our Visual Studio Code editor. The default endpoint or slash, which gave to us a simple HTML file, is declared in app.js file. You can see that in line number 22, it is declared that for the slash path, index router will respond. Now let's check out what is the logic written in index router. Now let's check out index router file. What this logic is doing, it's returning back to the client an index.html file with minimal information like express and welcome to express, the way we saw it in the browser. Now let's go back to app.js file. Below line number 22, we are seeing that another endpoint is declared, endpoint slash users. And if we check out its logic in users router, we will see that if the request on slash user router is received, then it will respond with this text. Let's check out. So if I type slash users, it will respond back with that text that we saw. What we want now is another handler which will handle the post request. So let me add post request logic. Let me also console log the payload that is passed in the body of the post request. Now let's check what the post request on this endpoint is returning back using Postman client. Now I have Postman client opened up, and here I have specified the request type as post and provided the URL. Now I want to set the body of the post request. So I'll go to this body tab, click on draw and set it as JSON. I'm going to provide JSON. Let's hit send and see what response is returned back from our server. So I got the problem. We have to restart the server for the changes to take effect. So let's go back to VS Code. Let's go back to VS Code editor and let's kill the process and restart it. We'll go to Postman client once again and let's check out whether it's responding rightly this time or not. Yeah, it's responding with the appropriate message. And let's check whether this payload is getting logged in the console or not. Yes, it's getting printed. Step 1 is completed. Now let's jump on to step 2. For step 2, we will create a project on Firebase. Let's go to this tab which has Firebase website opened up. If you're logged in to your Google account, you would have these options in the navbar menu. If you're not seeing this, that means you're not logged in. Once you're logged in, these options will be shown and you click on this Go to Console option. It will prompt you with an option to create a project on Firebase. So I'll click on this button and I will enter my project name. Let's say I type Firestore demo. Okay. And I click continue and continue and continue. Let me choose the analytics location as India. It will take a while to create the project on Firebase. Firebase project is created. We will click on this continue button and see what the interface looks like. I'll close this Gemini tab. So this is the panel of your Firebase project. On the left hand side, there is a panel, and clicking on this build drop down menu, you will see the other products that Firebase offers. Among these, there is Firestore. Let's check out one interesting thing. Let me go to Google Cloud. If I check my console and see the project in the selector project list, I'll see that the same project is created in the Google Cloud as well. So a Firebase project is essentially just a Google Cloud project. This means all your resources, permissions, and billings are managed through Google Cloud. The second step is completed. Now let's move on to third step. What is our third step? It's creation of a default database on Firestore. I'll go to this Firestore demo project, and in the build menu there is a Firestore database option. I'll click on that and I'll click on create database, standard edition. See, each project has a default database associated with it, and in the configuration part I'll just choose the production mode. I'll click on create. So your database is created. I told earlier in the video that this Firestore database is like MongoDB database, that you create a collection and inside those collections you have documents, and those documents will have your data. So the same thing is followed here. First a collection is made. Let's say I give the collection ID as hello, and document ID as hello1, and field as name, let's say Robert. So this hello is a collection, hello1 is a document, and this document has data in the key value format. Now here comes the fourth step, which is procuring the credentials of service account. What is service account? I told you in the beginning of the video that it's like a special account for your app that lets it securely access Firebase and Google Cloud services without needing a user to log in. In more simpler words, service account is used to authenticate the communication between the client and the server. In our case, the client is the Express application. So to have an authenticated communication between the Express application and Firestore, service account is needed. The question is how to procure the credentials of service account. For that, you go to the Firebase project. You're seeing this gear icon, click on this, go to project settings, and among these tabs you will see service accounts tab. Click on this. It will give you an option to create a new private key for this service account, and it also shows you the steps which you would need to establish a connection between your Express application and the Firebase project. So what I'm going to do is generate private key. Keep in mind that you need to keep this file secure, because once it is lost, you can't recover it. You'll have to create a new private key again. So I'll click this generate key button, and it will download the credentials in a JSON file format. I'll show you how does it look like. So this is how that files look like. It's a JSON document with a couple of fields, and there it has a private key field, which is used to establish a authenticated connection. So I mentioned earlier that a Firebase project is just a Google Cloud project. That means whatever you are seeing in this Firebase project can also be accessed and configured in Google Cloud Console also. So if you want to see where our service accounts are in Google Cloud, you go to this console, click on this hamburger menu. In IAM and admin, somewhere here, you will see service accounts here. So this list shows the service accounts that are at our disposal. And if you wish to create a new service account and want to configure it for your Firebase project, you go to create service account, you give these informations. What you'll have to do is you'll have to give exact permissions that are needed for your Firebase project. Okay, and once you give that and you click on done button, you can use that service account also alongside the default account that is created for you. Now we will move to step 5th, the final one, which is to pushing the data to Firestore DB via ExpressJs application. So what we have got so far, we have a project created, we have created the default database, we have procured the credentials of service account. Now we need to initialize Firebase in our project. So how we will do that? The steps are shown in the service accounts tab. This is how it is initialized. But we need Firebase admin package first. Let's go back to VS Code editor and install this package. I'll kill the server and npm install Firebase admin. Okay, that package is installed. I'll create one new file, Firebase init.js, and I will copy paste the code that we saw in the service accounts tab. In the line number 3, you are seeing that it requires the service account key. So I need to give the proper path of that JSON file. I have moved that JSON file into secret folder of my project. So what I'll do, I'll just directly configure the path. This step is enough to initialize Firebase in our Express.js application. Now the task is to send the data to Firestore. For that, we would need Firestore API. So do require Firebase admin / Firestore, and this exposes one API named as get Firestore. I'll reiterate once again. In this part of the code, we initialized our app with the service account credentials. Once that connection is authenticated, we need to have the Firestore module from the Firebase admin SDK. Once we get the reference of it, we are ready to export it to other modules in our project. Now let's go to users.js, where we had created the post handler for the users endpoint. What I'm going to do is Firestore DB. Yeah, now I've got the reference of the DB in my users router. Now the task is to push the body that we received earlier through Postman client to the Firestore DB. Now what we need to do is get the reference of the document in which we'll store our data. So Firestore DB dot collection. See, you saw earlier that we had created the hello collection. Now when we reference this users collection, if it finds it there, it will try to create the document in that. If the collection is not present, it will create the collection by itself. So we got the reference of the collection. Now we need to create the document ref. Now we need to push our data. So document ref dot set, and the whatever body we are getting in our request, we will push it to the Firestore DB. Please note that it's an async API, so we need to put await here, and if we put await here, then we need to put async here. Now let's hit this endpoint with the Postman client and see whether the payload is getting logged into the console and if it's getting pushed into Firestore DB or not. Let me start the server. In the body of this request, I had given a field as first name and last name. Let me also add email. Now let me hit send. See, it has returned back with the 200 OK response. We'll see whether this payload is logged into the console or not. Yes, the same payload has been added here. Now it's time to see whether the same payload is actually pushed to Firestore or not. Let me refresh it. Yes, a new collection is created with a document having these three fields which we had passed in the body of the post request. So that's it, folks. This is how we integrate Firestore in the Express application. Thank you so much.